Thank you for joining us at Lowry Sports Rhetoric. I am your host, Nathan.
And I'm Daimon.
And today we are going to wrap up our off-season series, the 2022 off-season, with the Vikings in the NFC North. In 2021, they were 8-9. They were second in the NFC North, and they did not make the playoffs. Second with an 8-9, huh? Interesting.
Yeah, well, they benefited from the fact that the Bears and the Lions both suck.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's kind of hard to argue that.
They benefited from that.
It's hard to argue that.
I mean, there was probably, a couple wins there that maybe they wouldn't have got if they were in any other division. Just saying.
Yeah. All right. We're offensively, they were 12th in yards and they were 14th in points. Decent numbers there. Defensively, they were 30th in yards allowed and 24th in points allowed. Not as good on the defense.
Which, again, they benefited because the Bears and the Lions couldn't score. So even though their defense sucked, they didn't lose the games to those teams because those teams' offenses sucked even more than their defense sucked.
That is definitely a fact.
Definitely a fact. That's what it is.
All right. Their GM is, oh my gosh. Listen. I don't do well with some of these names. I knew writing this one down here. It's Kwesi Adolphe-Mensah. I don't know. Sorry. He's new. I guess he was the Cleveland Browns Vice President of Operations. That's where it came from. He is replacing Rick Spielman, who was the old one from 2012 until now. That was 9 years.
They gave him plenty of time to get it going, and he didn't get it going.
I agree. I completely agree. I think that they hit a point where they looked like they were merging into the direction that you needed to go, and then it just kind of, the bottom fell out, and it just never...
It does seem like that coincided with one move, though.
Yeah, well, all right. So then the coach is Kevin O'Connell. He also is new. He was the Rams' offensive coordinator, which, kind of hard to argue. At least his previous role, it's hard to argue that.
So you're taking a guy that was part of building the Browns from nothing into a playoff contender, and he wasn't there for what went nuts this offseason. And then you're taking a guy who's part of a Super Bowl championship team.
Yeah.
So you got to think.
Yeah.
Those seem like good hires on paper.
Sure. It's like, exactly.
They seem like good hires on paper.
Totally agree with that. All right. And then the old one was Mike Zimmer, who, I never was a fan of his. 2014 to now, that's 7 years.
And again,
and I did not write his record down.
Plenty of time to succeed.
Agreed.
Like, you know what his record was? Not good enough. That's what his record was.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I like
a lot of 8-9s. That's what his record was.
Sure.
A lot of 8-9s, 8-8s, 6-10s.
I never was a big fan of Zimmer. I never really was. I don't know why. I don't know. I can't really place exactly. I just kind of never was a believer in him. You know what I mean? Anyways. So we'll get into free agent additions. We got Zadarius Smith, outside linebacker, come from Green Bay. That's a good addition.
I like him.
That's a good player right there. Harris Phillips, defensive tackle from Buffalo.
Not as familiar with him. But
me neither. Jordan Hicks, inside linebacker out of Arizona.
I like him.
Yep. Chris Reed, guard from Indianapolis. I didn't really care for Reed very much. So, all right. Jesse.
I like to hear that.
Jesse Davis, tackle, Miami. Johnny Munt, tight end out of the Rams. Chandon Sullivan, cornerback out of Green Bay. Albert Wilson, wide receiver out of Miami.
I think he's got some upside.
Yeah, usually have these separate a little better. All right. Nate Hairston, cornerback out of Denver. Jonathan Bullard, defensive end out of Atlanta. Austin Schlottman, guard out of Denver. Andre Menzi, defensive end out of Denver. And then Sean Byer, tight end out of Denver.
That's a lot of players. A lot of
players
people from Denver. So apparently the guy from Kansas City was familiar with the Denver roster and feels like he can get some value out of those guys.
I guess.
Those are a lot of bench players, so
maybe
he saw some. I don't know. I'll give the guy the benefit of the doubt. He's new.
Yeah,
give him the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, and like we've said in other teams too, man. If you find players that fit your system or whatever, even if they're, it's better to plug somebody in there that fits your system and have them not be the greatest player than somebody in there that doesn't fit your system and still have them not be the greatest player. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I think you can get value. I think when you start over, you don't want to overspend. So they're starting from scratch. So you get some value guys that fit, that can shape the team and the image that you want it to be. The type of organization you want, the type of defense you want, the type of offense you want. And so so sometimes you got to bring in a lot of guys, and it's easier to bring in a lot of bench players at value contracts to change that culture than it is to bring in a bunch of high-priced free agents. So
Sure.
especially if you already have a lot
you
of.
did bring in one that was good. And
No, I think Smith. I actually like Smith and Hicks a lot at the linebacker.
Yeah.
So I think I think it was a solid free agent pickup thing there. So let's see what they lost.
Free agent losses: Xavier Woods, safety, Carolina. I do like him. Anthony Barr, outside linebacker to Dallas. That's a little rough.
Yeah, but I think not Davis, but Zadarius Smith is a upgrade there personally.
Yeah. Barr is good. Nick Vigil, outside linebacker, Arizona. Chris Herndon, tight end to New Orleans. Chad Beebe, wide receiver to Houston, and Sean Bowery, defensive end to Vegas.
I mean, honestly,
I think that they brought in better than they lost.
They brought in better than they lost. They didn't bring in a replacement for Woods, but when we get to the draft, we'll talk about. I think the replacement came there.
Agreed.
So I mean, I think you got to say, as far as numbers go, they did a good job of changing over the roster. We're presuming with guys that fit them better, and I think they got better talent than they lost personally. So
trades, there were none. Getting the draft here. Round 1, number 32, you got Lewis Sines, safety out of Georgia. I think
that's that Woods replacement, and
he's got a lot of upside.
Yeah, I mean, he might not step in as a rookie and be better than Woods, but I'm going to guess in 3 years he's better than Woods.
I like him a lot, so I think he's a really good player. I really am big on a lot of these safeties. I am realizing that as we go through these.
It was a good draft for safeties. It really was. His sign is good.
Because I just see, it seems like every team picked a safety. I'm like, man,
there was some good safeties in the draft, for sure.
But Lewis Sines is a good one for sure. Round 2.
So I'm just going to make a quick point. This is just a general football point. You know what I think is really interesting? In college football, a lot of these defenses are turning to where they have 3 safeties and 2 linebackers instead of 3 linebackers and 2 safeties because it helps with the spread offenses. So I think that's part of why we're seeing all these good safeties.
They're really prepared to play.
Because they're playing, they're getting in there
roles
young.
Become more important as well.
Yeah, so because you have 3 of them, you have to rotate them. So you're getting in there young, and they're an important role. They're more important than linebackers in a lot of these leagues where their teams are all spread offenses.
Sure.
So I think that's where you're seeing that talent in safety. So
I think that's a trend.
Seen
a real uptick, and I've always been a safety guy. I get that, but when I get into it, it's like, man, there's so many safeties that I really like.
Well, what's interesting is I think even a couple of the NFL teams are starting to adopt that idea of doing 3. Like Kansas City kind of does that with 3 safeties, or having that hybrid guy that can. Derwin James does that for the Chargers, where you're kind of a hybrid between a safety and that 3rd linebacker. So I think we'll continue. I think that's going to creep into the league, and so you'll continue to see a lot of safety drafted. I think.
It's interesting.
Anyway, that was a side note to the Minnesota, but when you were talking about it, it just made me think of that.
Yeah. Round 2, number 42, Andrew Booth, cornerback out of Clemson. Another guy I think has a lot of upside as well.
It definitely has upside. We'll see if he reaches that potential. But I think he has some upside.
Yeah, I mean, if both of these guys work out, and I really think Lewis Sines definitely will. To me, I like those first 2 picks as far as I'm big in the backfield, the defensive backfield, so I like that. You know what I mean? I would be happy. I'm happy with 1 and 2 going in that direction if I'm a fan of the team.
Yeah.
Round number 2, 59. Round 2, number 59, Ed Ingram, guard out of LSU.
Yeah, so I like Ingram a lot. I felt like maybe, especially because of how deep the draft was, I felt like maybe he could have slid down and you could have got him in a later round. But in a normal draft, he probably is a 2nd-round talent, so it's hard to fault him too much. And I think he has potential to be a really good guard, especially down the road. So, good pick.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, there was a whole lot of people there still at round number 2 that were
I mean, it was a deep draft, but hey, look, if they identified that as a guy that they think is going to fit their system, like you said, it's sometimes a system fit. If they feel like he's going to fit their system and he's a guy that can start for the next 10 years, and you get him in the 2nd round, then hey, that's a good pick.
All right, round 3, number 66, Brian Asamoah, linebacker out of Oklahoma. I think that's also a guy with a lot of upside.
A lot of upside. If he realizes that upside, then that's a heck of a pick there too.
Yep. He was fun to watch. All right, round number 4, Round 4, number 118, Caleb Evans, cornerback out of Missouri. Interesting, they still going at cornerback.
Yeah, so, clearly they felt like they needed to upgrade the secondary.
Obviously.
Or at least the depth of the secondary, anyway.
And I don't know as much about him. He's kind of flew into my radar a little bit. So.
Yeah. Agreed.
Round 5, number 165, Ezizi Tamaro, defensive end out of Minnesota. I know that, there's some upside there as well. So.
Well, and he didn't have to move very far.
Yeah.
Just good for him.
Round 5. Well, at least they know he's acclimated to the weather.
He can play out. He can play in the cold.
He played in the cold.
They play inside, though, don't they?
I think that they do. Oh, the Vikings? Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, I guess it's irrelevant.
The Gophers don't, but the Vikings
But they do play against teams. They play against teams in their division.
He'll be okay in Green Bay and Chicago. Yeah. Way to go.
All right, round 5, number 169, Ty Chandler, running back out of North Carolina.
Yeah, so we talked about this before. I think he was a decent running back in college. He's not my favorite running back in this draft. There was probably guys in the 6th and 7th round pick that I think are more talented. But they have a pretty good starting running back, so maybe they see him as giving them a skill set that somehow Dalvin Cook doesn't. I don't know what that would be, but maybe
Dalvin Cook doesn't have.
Maybe a special team. Maybe he has like some special team skills or something. I don't know.
That's true. It could.
I don't know. It's interesting.
Well, I mean, you gotta have backups.
Yeah.
Round 6, number 184, Veteran Lowe. This is an example of when I wrote bad handwriting.
Yeah, both of us, our handwriting is bad.
Vidarian. I'm pretty decent with it. I've been hurrying. Vidarian Lowe, offensive tackle out of Illinois. Anyways, correct me if you know. Although I don't know anything about him. So
yeah, I don't either.
Illinois' offensive tackle. Sorry, I don't know. Round 6, number 191, Jalen Naylor, wide receiver out of Michigan State.
Oh, now this guy I do like.
Do you?
Yeah. Naylor's, I like that. They already have a good wide receiver core, but Naylor's good. Naylor's interesting. And I think a good special teams guy, too. He could probably do some punt return, kick return stuff for him.
Cool. Round 7, number 227, Nick Muse, tight end out of South Carolina.
I mean, I know the name a little bit from, like, playing college fantasy football, but I don't think he never caught my eye. He didn't catch my eye during my, so I'm familiar with the name, but I really don't know a whole lot about the player, honestly.
Yep, great. All right, let's go ahead and get into the Viking starters, projected starters. We have quarterback Kirk Cousins with 4,221 yards, 33 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. This is a discussion that me and you have had. Look, I actually kind of feel like he's underrated as a quarterback, but I get what the thing with him being paid. I do think that maybe he got paid a little more than he should.
Yeah, so he's underrated for his talent. He was
overpaid
for his talent.
So he's overrated by the football team.
I think he kind of cost that old. I think that was what I referred to as that was their one decision. When they brought him in, they had a team that looked like it was ready to compete. They had nice pieces on offense. They had a killer defense. And it was like, this is the piece. And then they didn't win that year. And then the next year, they had to let a lot of that defense go because of how much they paid Cousins. And they really haven't been the same since.
I definitely agree that it does seem as if, obviously, if you're going to put your team into a position where you're strapped for cash, you want to do it the way the Green Bay Packers do it, where you actually have a dominant quarterback. Kirk Cousins is a good quarterback. He's just not at that level.
Well, what's interesting now is, like, as much as he's been overpaid for his career, the rest of the league's kind of caught up to him. Yeah. So maybe you're not overpaying him anymore, finally.
Well, maybe, yeah.
Because the rest, because the other quarterbers are making, now he's probably slotted about right.
Yeah, maybe I could definitely see that.
But the other thing that's really interesting, too, is there was a ton of rumors about him being traded to other teams during the offseason, and then that never happened.
Well, look, like I said, personally myself, I think he's better than a vast majority of quarterbacks. I really do. I think he.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I just don't think he was worth the money that they paid for him. But I don't disagree that he's good.
And you look at consistently, like you can go look at his stats, and it's pretty much the same. Like every year you look at him, he's a good quarterback.
Yeah, and I think if he would have been paid like middle of the pack money, or to me he's in that like 12 to 20 range, right? Like 12 to 20 range. So if he would have been paid 12 to 20 money, but at the time they gave him,
it was like 40, wasn't it?
It was like, I don't know what it was, but at the time it was like the highest paid quarterback in the league.
Right. Well, anyways, yeah.
So that's why I
do
think that was a
agree.
mistake at the time.
I do agree too. That does strap your team. And again, like I said, there's some quarterbacks where okay, maybe that isn't the stupidest thing in the world to do. With Kirk Cousins, I do see what you're
Yeah,
saying.
but I mean, like we talked about it in the Packers video that we did, or I talked about it. You kind of tolerated what I had to say. That even as good as Rodgers is, if you're paying that much for a quarterback, it makes it hard to put a team around you. So if you're not as good as Aaron Rodgers and you still have that same problem, it's going to be hard to compete.
But one of the players that they do have that's really good on the team is running back Dalvin Cooks.
When he stays healthy, he's a monster.
1,159 yards, 6 touchdowns, another 224 receptions, 0
Love me some
touchdowns.
Dalvin Cook.
He is, he is a very good running back when he's healthy. You're right. You're like when he's on the field. But yeah, I mean, like we just said too, like his skill set is amazing. Like he can pretty much do whatever. You know what I mean? Like
he can be a power back. He can be a speed back. He gets the ball to the backfield.
He blocks in the backfield. Like Dalvin Cook is
monster.
The ideal running back. He really is. All right. Wide receiver Justin Jefferson, 108 receptions, 1,616 yards, and 10 touchdowns. Justin Jefferson is an absolute.
And so you're saying that 108 receptions and 1,600 yards is good for a wide receiver?
Yes.
Oh, that's good for a college wide receiver.
Dude, he's so good. He's so good. He's so good. Yeah. Wide receiver Adam Thielen, 95 receptions, 726 yards, and 10 touchdowns. Again, I feel like he's a really good receiver as well.
Well, like all
Let's
that.
see in
Like,
second.
Here's the thing too. Like before Justin Jefferson showed up, that dude was getting like 120 catches a year, right? Like so,
and putting up over 1,000 yards.
Yeah, it was
so
ridiculous.
So yeah, and then Casey Osborne, he was a rookie last year. 50 receptions, 655 yards, and 7 touchdowns. I mean, for a third guy who's a rookie, I don't think that that's bad.
I just realized who he is. When we were like doing a little bit of the talk beforehand, I like that name rung something to me. He came from Buffalo. Like he's actually, I think he's got some. I think he's got some upside to even be better than
really
that.
Really good numbers as a rookie.
Sure.
As a third option.
As a third option.
So, anyways, tight end Irv Smith Jr. 30 receptions, 365 yards, and 5 touchdowns.
He's young still too, because he came from Alabama.
Yeah, I mean,
so
they still got some. It's a pretty young core, anyways. That's good. So,
outside of Cousins,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. All right, we got fullback C.J. Ham, and then our line looks like left tackle Christian Darrisaw, left guard Ezra Cleveland, center Garrett Bradbury, right guard Jesse Davis, and right tackle Brian O'Neill.
I got to be honest, I don't know any of those guys.
I don't either.
You know, between this and doing the college videos, I realized something. I really don't pay any attention to an offensive line.
Yeah, there's a few times where they stand out.
I remember like when Orlando Pace was at Ohio State, everybody knew who Orlando Pace was.
Right.
And then there's a couple other guys that are just like, like you're right. Like there's a few guys that you just know they're maulers. But there's not a lot of offensive linemen that I'm familiar with.
Yeah,
it's interesting.
Yeah, I think it's a hard position to even watch as you're watching the game.
Well, and you also pretty much and you kind of trust. Like it's so technique and it's so in the trenches. You basically just have to trust what people tell you about linemen.
Exactly.
Because you can't sit there and be like, oh, look at how he handled that swim move.
There's a guy like Quentin Nelson. He's a guy sometimes you can definitely tell, like even watching the game.
Yeah, if they're just picking up somebody and depleting them. That's it. But very few people have that ability.
Who does? Quentin Nelson. All right. Defensively, Vikings. We got Dalvin Tomlinson at defensive end. 39 tackles, 2.5 sacks, 1 fumble recovery, 2 pass deflects. We got nose tackle Harrison Phillips, 51 tackle, 1 sack, 1 fumble recovery, 1 pass deflect. And right defensive end Armin Watts, 46 tackles, 5 sacks, and 2 forced fumbles. So for a front, it's okay. It's
I mean, they were 30th in the league last year, right? They might be addressing that in next year's draft. I'm just guessing.
Right. Yeah, there's a little bit of a hole there. All right.
Maybe.
And then linebacker, you got Daniel Hunter, 38 tackles, 6 sacks. Inside linebacker Eric Kendricks, 143 tackles, 5 sacks, 1 fumble recovery, 2 interceptions, and 4 pass deflects. Inside linebacker Jordan Hicks, 116 tackles, 4 sacks, 1 forced fumble, 2 fumble recoveries, and then 5 passive flex.
On the Cardinals.
And then, the Cardinals that you saw. Yeah. For some reason, I did not get that. And then Darius Smith from Green Bay. He only had 1 tackle last year. He got injured. He only played 1 game. He had back issues, so that could be an issue too. You got to think about.
Well, that's true. We didn't. You're right. There's the potential that injuries could be there, but before that back injury,
every year before it was 12 sacks, 10 sacks. 11, you know what I mean? He's a good player. So at any rate, and then, that's their linebacking core. I mean,
so I feel like that's a solid linebacking core. Maybe not as good up in the front, but
it's also not.
They're not going to go from 30th to top 10. Let's just say that.
No.
They might go from 30th to 25.
I mean, it's a valid point.
It's an improvement, but it's not.
Yeah.
We talk about a lot of defenses that are a lot better than this one. I'm just saying.
Defense. All right. Cornerback, they've got Patrick Peterson, who is just a shell of himself there, really. 45 tackles, 1 interception, 5 pass to flex. Mm-hmm. I mean, not the guy he used to be. Strong safety, Harrison Smith, 114 tackles, 3 sacks, 1 forced fumble, 1 interception, 7 pass to flex.
I mean, he's really good. Harrison Smith is a really good safety.
Yes.
At some point, he's going to start to lose his step too. But for now,
free safety. Yeah, they have a lot of age on this defense too. Like that's it. It's true. They're one of the oldest teams I've looked at as far as my recollection is. When I was looking at them, it really stood out to me some of the age of some of these guys. Cameron Byron, he was a rookie last year. 28 tackles, 1 sack, 1 interception at free safety. And then cornerback Cameron Densler, 53 tackles, 1 forced fumble, 1 interception, and 8 pass to flex. I would be surprised if the rookies didn't work themselves into that.
So Densler's one of those former Clemson guys.
Oh, yeah.
So he's been okay. This is kind of what I was talking about.
Those aren't bad. That's not bad.
Yeah, but that's what I was talking about with Booth. Like, there's a lot of talent there, but we'll see if he gets it. Because not all those some of those Clemson guys did not live up to the hype, and Densler's one of them. He's been solid, but he's not the shutdown guy that he was when he was at Clemson. So, yeah, we'll see. I think there's definitely room for Klein to come in and probably grab a starting job. Maybe Booth does, but I don't know. It wouldn't surprise me if that guard finds his way into the starting lineup sooner or later.
Yeah, it is. When you look at the Vikings, it does look as if there's holes there. There is. It's not the most complete team that's out there.
But look, even
offensively, they look.
But look, here's the thing, right? They're going to benefit again from the fact that the Bears on the line suck. So I mean, I'm hoping that we're better than we were last year. I'm hoping.
I think we will be.
I think we probably will be too. But the Lions are still going to suck, and even if we're better, we're still not.
I mean, yeah.
We're not Green Bay. We're not a playoff team. So
yeah, better might still mean you don't beat them.
Right. We can be better and still not beat them.
Sure.
Now, personally, I think we'll be good enough to beat them.
I think you guys are closer at beating them now than you were last year.
Yeah. Hopefully. Yeah. I think it's possible that we could be close to them. But I still don't think that's good. Like, I don't see. I'll be surprised if a team makes the playoffs other than Green Bay from our division.
It didn't happen last year. So, yeah.
And I'll be surprised if that changes.
I do tend to agree with you, especially when we talk about some of the guys that are on the bubble, those playoff pitchers in other divisions in the NFC. And I definitely agree that I feel like it's very possible it's just more of the same with Minnesota. You're going 8-9 or whatever, 9-8, whatever.
So it's interesting because they bring in a new coach and they bring in a new GM, and we've talked before with other teams during the series about the rebuilds, right? So are they in the start of a rebuild? And if they are, they might want to think about trading Cousins while he still has some value.
Well, I mean, I think that there was talk about that, and it didn't seem like anything they were interested in. I mean,
correct. Correct.
It didn't seem like they had any interest in moving on from him.
Yeah, so that makes me think that they're still going to try to, maybe they feel like they've got enough talent to compete for a playoff spot, and they'd rather do that than go into full rebuild mode.
I mean, I liked some of the pieces that they did in the draft. It wasn't my favorite draft in the world, but I do like some of the pieces that they got, especially there in the secondary and stuff like that. And I think, maybe it is the thought process. Look, if we get another... we get another draft where we do well. If we do well in another draft, we could be looking better next year. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah, I don't know. I think so. This is what the videos are supposed to be about. This is our last one. So it all comes down to would you think of their
A
offseason?
draw. I think it's a draw.
It's hard to judge.
I don't feel like it's a win. I don't feel like it's a loss. I feel like they're, like I said, I just feel like they kind of just.
Yeah, so I think they maybe slightly improved the defense a little bit.
Yeah, I mean maybe.
I think slightly. The offense is probably close to the same.
I mean, it's a good offense. I mean, you got a lot of pieces.
It was good offense.
You have a lot of pieces there that could be really, really good.
But again, okay, so it's like, yeah, you kind of be projecting to be similar to what they were last year. They were like the 14th best offense, so like in that mid-teens range.
Yeah.
With a defense that's in the bottom third or worse.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair.
So, what's that going to be? That's not going to be a playoff team.
No, I mean, I really don't think so either.
And if they traded Kirk Cousins and put in like a rookie or something like that.
Well, they got Kellen Mond from A&M.
Yeah, so if they traded Cousins and put Kellen Mond in, then I would go, they'll probably finish last in our division. Like,
right. I mean, absolutely. Listen, if you got rid of Kirk Cousins, yeah, absolutely.
So, I mean, I would almost, unless you think Munn is the guy, I think you kind of should trade Kirk Cousins, go ahead and be last in the league, and then draft you a quarterback in the next draft.
Yeah.
I don't know. To me, like, we've talked about this in other videos. As a Bears fan, I've been on this, like, well, let's try to keep making the playoffs while we rebuild. That's been the Bears' philosophy for 30 years. And it's terrible. It's terrible. I'm all about, like being a Bears fan has taught me, tear it down, burn it to the ground, and then let the phoenix rise from the ashes. Because it's a much...
has never risen from the ashes.
We've never burned it to the ground. We've never burned it. We've tried to do what they're trying to do. Let's just stay.
Not right now, though.
Let's just try. No, this new group finally said,
burn it to the ground.
Let's just start over. Let's trade Mac. Let's let a bunch of guys leave in free agency. So, like we talked about in the video, I much prefer that. And look, I'll make you this bet right now. In 3 years, we're going to be much better than the Vikings.
I mean, look, it's a very valid point. I mean, I do understand what you're saying, and like I said, when I was going through their defense, even. It's a lot of age on that defense, dude. Like, it's not like, I mean, it is. Yeah. You're not.
So they're trying to hold it together. They're doing like the old Bears philosophy of let's hold it together. Hope we can kind of sneak into a wild card. We know we're not good enough to win a Super Bowl, but if we can sneak into the wild card while the Bears and the Lions suck, maybe we can sneak into a wild card and
just lose.
And then what? Get your butt kicked by a much better team? Like, I just don't think it's a good philosophy. It's the philosophy that I've watched as a Bears fan for a long, long time. And I don't like it, and I won't like it, and so that's how I feel.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
But maybe that's not actually their philosophy. Maybe after this season, maybe they just didn't get good enough trade offers for Cousins.
Quite possibly.
And so maybe after this offseason, then they'll move on from him and start a rebuild and do it all from scratch. Like maybe it's like one more chance and then we rebuild. If that's what they do, then kudos to them. But I think if they just try to keep holding it together with duct tape and spit, then the results don't look great. And that I've seen that, and I'm not impressed by that. So I hope they do that because as a Bears fan, I'd rather the Vikings not be good.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it does seem like they just kind of just go 8-8, or it's at 8-9 because you got the extra game. But I'm just saying.
So look, I mean, for me, if they keep doing that and stay there, and then Rodgers retires and Love comes in and that team drops, and then the Lions are the Lions. By process of elimination, we're going to be the best team left in the division. So I'm all about that. Let's do that. Please, Vikings, do that.
All right. Thank you for giving us a watch. If you got anything out of us, give us a like, give us a subscribe.
Go ahead and hit those comments. Let him know how to pronounce some of those names.
Yeah.
Tell us why we were wrong about the Vikings. Tell us that they're, a playoff contender and that having Kirk Cousins has been amazing. If that's what you feel like, I'd be very curious to see what the Lions think about the Vikings fans think about the Kirk Cousins experience that you guys have had. Do you think of him fondly, or do you feel like that's what cost the Lashers the job the way that I see it? Throw those in the comments and let's have a discussion.
All right. Well, thank you for giving us a watch, and we look forward to seeing you again next time.